Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Thanks for coming out this morning. I'm going to call this meeting to order and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to recognize some folks in the audience that are on the board currently. Dave Stevens in the back of the room. Dan Statursky. Pete Gomzak. Bill Wentworth. Thank you all for being here today with us. And I have some appointments to make for the meeting. Parliamentarian will be Joe Moore, our legal counsel. Sergeant at Arms, Chief Dave Massey, and he's come loaded and ready for bear. We have a timekeeper, Diane McGraw, and she's in the back right now, but when we get to the public comment section, Diane will be actually sitting where Bob is sitting right now, and will be giving you hand signals of how much time is left for your period of time. And last, our teller, the head of the elections subcommittee, Judy Butler, who's in the back of the room. And now the really important question. Judy, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
We have a quorum. Good. And we can do business. That's great. Our first order of work is to approve the agenda, which will be approval of minutes from 2010. Presentation from Sam Wilkinson, volunteer award winner. Reports from Joe Moore, Pete Gomzak, Chris Hall, Tom Terry, myself, Bob Thompson. Old business, new business, public comments, and the elections report from Judy Butler. And then we will adjourn. Are there any changes or adjustments to the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now, we move on to approve the minutes for 2010, and I've had at least 4 people ask me, why is it 2010? We did not have a quorum in 2011, so we were not capable of approving the minutes from the previous year's meeting. And since we did not have a quorum in 2011, we have official notes from the meeting which are kept in the file for the annual meetings. Therefore, now that we have a quorum, you got a copy of the minutes from the August 14th, 2010 meeting. Do I have any changes or adjustments to the minutes? Those of you who have served on the board with me know why I just looked over at Pete.
I'll move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have with us today 2 very special guests. One is Master Chief Reynolds, who is the Naval Science Instructor at Stephen Decatur High School, who is also the coach and mentor of the NJROTC, the National Junior ROTC program. We have an honoree today, Patrick James. He goes by James Morris. He was actually born in Rochester, New York in 1997. Makes me feel very old when I hear it. His family moved to Long Island in 2000 and attended Catholic school through the 8th grade. And while in New York, James was active in baseball, basketball, lacrosse, track, field. He also took on fishing, swimming, outdoor activities, and I'm assuming he went to class at the same time. And also, he currently attends Stephen Decatur High School and is a member of the NJROTC. When James moved here to Ocean Pines in 2011, he got a really great piece of news. He had to then catch up all his service learning volunteer hours that he would have done for 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and all the way up through 9th grade in order for him to be on path to graduate from Stephen Decatur someday. So he had all of that to catch up. which was about a total of 45 some hours worth of volunteer work that he needed to do. James took this challenge head on. He and his father Joe met with the staff at Ocean Pines Parks and Recreation Department and began to work out a schedule to satisfy all those requirements. James' volunteer assignments were many. He would assist in projects like copying, sorting at local schools, setting up rooms for equipment, various programs. He willingly helped with sports programs like soccer, t-ball, assisted with special events like dodgeball wars, family fun nights. It was in no time until James had met his commitment that he had to catch up. At this point, most young people would have stopped helping out and said, okay, I've got my numbers. He didn't do that. James stands out as a very special young man. He continues to volunteer to this day. It has been very rare when James didn't help when asked. He became very familiar with the welcome race at the Recreation and Parks Department. He knew if you knew James, if you wanted James to do something, he was going to do it right. By the end of the school year, James had not only met his obligation to the schools, he had volunteered for an additional 45 hours worth of service to Ocean Pines programs. James is still active, volunteering to help our Parks Department. It is because of his dedication to the school and his community that he has been named the 2012 Sam Wilkerson Volunteer Year of the Year Award winner. James, please come forward.
I'd like to thank Sonia Benz and Derek and Eric for nominating me for this award, and without them I wouldn't be receiving it right now. And it was fun helping out here and for all the hours and stuff. Everyone said service learning was boring and you wouldn't enjoy it, but I actually enjoyed my service learning, and I plan to continue helping out the community here in Ocean Pines until the end of high school.
With young people like James, I think our country is going to be just fine. I would like now to call on Joe Moore for the legal report.
Well, the legal front at Ocean Pines Association has been very quiet this year. Aside from collections of unpaid association assessments and suits filed seeking compliance with either the requirements of the declarations of restrictions and matters related to violations of Architectural Review Committee standards, the only matter which Ocean Pines Association has been involved with is the matter of tax liability of the association with regard to the collection of fees at the parking lot at the Beach Club in Ocean City. The matter of tax liability issue has been handled by tax counsel with the firm of Gordon Feinblatt in Baltimore City. After adverse decisions from the U.S. Tax Court and the First Circuit Court of Appeal, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, the Board of Directors voted not to file a petition for certiorari to the United States Supreme Court, which would have been the last potential appeal of the case. The association, working in consultation with tax counsel and the association auditors, has been determining the estimated tax liability as a result of the case. Our office continues to file foreclosure cases when it's determined by the Board of Directors to be appropriate in matters related to unpaid assessments for the Ocean Pines members. However, in many instances, Ocean Pines Association receives notices of foreclosures by banks and lending institutions foreclosing on those property owners, and those liens, in most all instances, have priority over association assessments. Also, in certain matters, the property owners have filed for bankruptcy. Therefore, in several cases, Mr. Carmine's staff tries to make payment plans to be worked out so that the association may attempt to collect the maximum amount of assessments due. Also, when instructed by the Board of Directors, our office files suit to enforce the requirements of the Declaration of Restrictions and alleged violations of Architectural Review Committee standards. In virtually all of these cases, Ocean Pines Association achieves compliance with the restrictions and standards by virtues of the orders of the Circuit Court in Snow Hill. In some instances, such matters are resolved by the Board of Directors voting in accordance with the bylaws by a 2/3 majority vote to have Ocean Pines Association personnel enter upon the property to have the lots or exterior of the property brought into compliance by adequate maintenance of the property, by removal of trash or debris. So those continue from our office. And Mr. President, as I say, that's my quiet report.
Except for the IRS case, it has been
Well,
kind
that's
of a
right.
quiet year. I will speak to the IRS case a little bit later. At this point, I will call on Pete Gomzak for our treasurer.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good turnout. I promised Bob and Tom that it wouldn't take more than about an hour, so just kidding.
Diane, are you ready?
This is the treasurer's report. Tom asked me if I would be on the agenda this morning and cover the financial information that's relevant to the membership, and so I said I'll be glad to do it. Here are the topics we're going to talk about today. We're not going to get into a whole bunch of detailed numbers and go through the statements. By the way, there were handouts at the door, one green color cover and the other blue. I know that some of you arrived before they were available for distribution. We tried to make up for that, but if anybody doesn't have them, they're over there, or perhaps someone can bring them to you. But I'm not going to get into all those numbers that are contained in that report, okay, those reports. I am going to talk about these 5 things. Summary financial information versus budget, the base annual assessment, we've recast that from the budget to compared actually to actual, operating fund performance past 6 years, operating fund deficit and the plan to eliminate it. As you know, we had a $500,000 deficit resulting from missing the budget 3 consecutive years some years ago, and we've been increasing the assessment each year by $4 to help erase that $500,000 deficit. The IRS case clearly had an impact on that, and you'll see that as I go through it. Lastly, the yacht club, we thought that was important enough. I know that Bob, in all his presentations, has been outlining how the association intends to pay for the $4.3 million in the proposed and now out for referendum yacht club rebuild, and I'm going to cover that as well. And then lastly, assessment history increase. We're all about history today, so here we are. All right, this is this year. And again, I'm not going to go do it departmentally here or anything of that nature. The next slide we'll cast it in terms of the PPO, as we call it, per property owner. But here's the summary for the year. We were favorable to the budget, $151,348. You may recall from the Ocean Pines quarterly newsletter, my treasurer's report there, I believe that number was 117, but that was subject to change based on the audit being concluded and year-end adjustments and so forth. So we came within 34,000 to the good of that previously reported 117. So what we have is 151,000 operating budget. And those of you who don't know, and probably many of you, we budget on a zero basis. We take all of our expenses each year, including capital expenses, which is depreciation, and then we divide that by 8,446, and that's your assessment for the year. That's how we do it. So the revenue exactly equals the expenses in our budgeting process, okay? So the 151 means that we had a favorable variance to the zero budget at the bottom line. So for the third consecutive year, as you'll see, we beat budget. We did, however, have that little matter of the IRS, which goes back 10 years. Hard to believe, but the period covered by that is from 2002 to 2012. And I won't dwell on that, but we reported on various occasions to the membership, to the press, as widely as we could distribute it, the information that says we're working, as Joe Moore referred a moment ago, we're working with our legal counsel in Baltimore, Gordon Feinbach Rothman, as well as our auditors to determine the estimated liability. And we finally did determine it, and it required, as we've said on other occasions, generally accepted accounting principles, required us under the circumstances that we face this year, that is the ruling of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, to book that liability. So we have a one-time non-recurring charge of $459,000. So there goes that 151 profit for the year. But it's a 10-year catch-up, as you all know, okay? So that's behind us. We've made the changes for 2013, the year we're in currently, in terms of opening that beach parking to the public, and we believe that that will alleviate any future tax related to that operation. So we still have a 10-year catch-up of $459,000. Here is the the expression of our financial year. There's a lot of numbers here. You've got handouts there that have this in it, okay? So don't worry that you can't see it in the back there. If you have the green and the blue, you have this information in that. And what it does, though, we budget, as I said, the dues this past year ended April 30th, 2012. That's the year we're talking about. And the assessment was $843. Here is a summary of those components. I know one of the candidates for election to the board this year was out in the public at various meetings and presenting this kind of information, and I would oftentimes get the question, well, why don't we do that? Well, the answer is we've been doing it for years and years and years, but it's done in all the public meetings and so forth, but very few people come to those budget meetings. So I thought we'd introduce this element into the annual meeting for the membership this year, and I'm encouraging Bob Thompson next year to, when he sends out the letter accompanying your dues, to have a similar schedule in it that breaks down what the assessment is, police, fire, et cetera, et cetera. So we think that's another effective means going forward of communicating this information. I think it really is helpful for people to understand where their money goes, and so we're trying to respond to that and making it even more available to you. So there's the summary. As you can see, the
I did that.
okay.
See better from the back.
I thought I lost the mic, too. Fortunately, I didn't. This doesn't come off, does it?
You're doing fine.
Yeah, but I'm leaning over here. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, that feels much better. Thank you. Thanks, Joe. I can go longer now. Seriously, we 843 at the bottom. 843 at the bottom is the dues this year. And as you see, police and fire together comprise $170 of that. All other operating departments, you'll see broken down in a moment, $358. The amenities, we budgeted a net profit this year. That is, the year just ended April 30th, 2012, of $27. The current year's, by the way, structure, which I'm not going to show you, we're not getting into this year, has a $35 credit, if you will, profit for all the amenities wrapped up together. And then we have new capital transfers, $14. So then we have capital costs, which are an important part of any operations expenses for the year. It's depreciation. Then we have the 5-year funding plan, which you've heard a lot more about in connection with the yacht club over these recent months. And that's now $78 of your $843 assessment. Bulkhead and golf drainage, $34. So the total operating capital, as you see down the bottom, where's that laser thing? There it is. 831 right there, and then we have the deficit elimination with $4 increase each year, 4 the first year, 8 the second year, 12 the third year. This is the third year, so we have 12 for that. That's your 843. Now, the next column is, okay, if we had the benefit of hindsight, what would that breakdown have been? By the way, we don't send you an extra bill if we miss budget, and we don't send you a refund check if we do better than budget. Okay? But here is the recasting, pretty close to budget, as you can see. Police and fire was 170 budgeted, came in at 165. All other operating departments were 358 versus 313 actual. And you'll see why the amenities didn't do quite so well. Amenities, we had budgeted a profit of $27 per property owner, PPO. It came in at a $4 loss. I want you to think about that. All year long, each of you paid $4 out of your dues, in essence, for all the amenities wrapped up. We hear a lot of talk about the amenities, but they are budgeted generally, and we missed budget, no question about it. So you didn't get the benefit of that ultimately. So anyway, here we are, depreciation, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll go forward. The operating departments, the previous slide showed them at 528. Here they are. Police and fire again. Some people want to cut the dues. I don't know how you do that with eliminate police and fire, I guess. I don't know. All kinds of ways to do it. But in any event, we have 528 budgeted this year for the operating expenses. They came in at 478, $50 better. And again, I applaud Bob Thompson and his management team because we knew that the amenities were falling behind budget, particularly golf, also the yacht club. They were not living up to the budgeted amounts. Bob managed effectively other operating expenses within his control, not filling positions, postponing this, taking cuts there, to manage that process as any good manager would. So we ended up with a $50 savings, if you will, in the operating departmental expense category. Again, I'm not going to hit any particular one. There's the amenities, and you see the 27 at the bottom was supposed to be a profit, ended up being a $4 expense. So it's a $31 variation, if you will, between the budget and what we actually achieved. Golf, of course, was the big one. It was supposed to be $10, and it ended up being $34. And we know why. We lost the greens last year. We lost somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 in revenue. Most of that would have fallen right to the bottom line. So we had a tremendous financial consequence of having to close those greens and make it a 9-hole golf course for part of the year. So that's the consequence of that. Yacht Club, which gets a lot of attention, and we know issues there. Bob has recently hired David McLaughlin, the new food and beverage manager, and his job is to get that thing turned around. We budgeted a loss of $8 of your assessment to go to the Yacht Club this past year, and in effect, it was $21, a $13 differential, $1 a month, by the way. So anyway, we know what we have to do. Beach parking, that which is the subject of, of course, the IRS matter, right there. Marinas make money, Beach Club makes money. So all in, these amenities are essentially break even. Essentially break even. Okay. Now, operating fund deficit and surpluses. This is interesting. This is 6 years. And I mentioned earlier, and you all are aware, that because 4 years ago, frankly, I came in and I said, what about this $500,000 deficit that you've had in the 3 prior years? What are we doing about that? And the answer was, oh, we're supposed to do something about that? Anyway, we did something about it. We created the 5-year funding plan, which was a $30 a year increase. It had 2 components. One was $26, which went into the special capital replacement reserve fund to fund the major big ticket items, as we've come to call them, yacht club, country club, etc. But the other $4 was to eliminate that $500,000. And there it stood, staring us in the face, $499,814. Okay, and those are the years that produced that loss, 202, 137, 159, and those 3 fiscal years. Now look what happens in the next 3 years. Next 3 years, we haven't had deficits. We've had surpluses. We've beaten the budget. By 174 2 years ago, 38,000 last year, and again the 151 this year. Again, asterisk, without the IRS. Not going to deceive anybody. We got that IRS matter, and you'll see that again. But operationally, what we budgeted and could manage, 3 years in a row, we've done 364. Now, I did a little interesting thing here. I totaled those up. That's an $864,000 turnaround, ladies and gentlemen. The past 3 years versus the 3 years prior to that. All right? Thank you very much. you don't often read that in the papers or the letters to the editor, right? Okay. So $500,000 negative behind budget for 3 years, 364 plus the budget, excluding IRS, the next three, 864 turnaround. Now, here's what the budget is. You can put a budget assessment in, and we did, 843, 873. Every board sets the budget. As I said, you simply take all the expenses, all the revenue, and the expenses include the capital expenses, depreciation. I'll say this maybe for my last time. When we spend money on capital improvements, it does not affect the assessment in the year we spend the money. It does not affect assessment. Those assets are paid for by coming out of the replacement fund for the most part. Those assets then do affect assessments going forward because we depreciate them. So an asset is going to last 10 years. We build it into the assessment for that particular asset over the next 10 years. An asset that lasts 40 years, such as a new building, will affect depreciation over the next 40 years. But it does not affect your assessment in the year the expenditure is made. Okay, but here's what the base assessment, $575, went up $150 in that 1 year. And I understand the reason for that. They were trying to deal with the same issue we were trying to deal with the 5-year funding plan. They chose to do it in one big lump sum, but that got taken away pretty much the next year. In any event, here's the budgeted amounts. 2007, for example, 575. But actually, if you had the benefit of hindsight, as I just showed you with respect to this year, the dues should have been 599. Same thing happened in the next 2 years. That's how you got a $500,000 deficit. You can set budgets, but unless you manage to them, it's pointless. So it's not just what's in the assessment, it's how you did at the end of the day. $60 for those of you who have a calculator times roughly 8,000 people is about $500,000, $480,000. The next 3 years, as I say, the budgets were set at 763, 808, and 843 respectively, but we've done better than that. So with the benefit of hindsight, the dues would have been 742, 803, and 825. You're not getting the refund yet. Okay? Now here we are, history of the operating fund balance. Here's where we started on May 1st, 2006, 14,000. That's what we had in our surplus for all the years of Ocean Ponds. Because again, we manage, the association historically had a zero bottom line budget each year. You take all your income and expenses, divide by your membership, and that's the dues, and if you hit your budget, you come out zero, right? Well, we had a 14,000 surplus. Well, the next 3 years drove that to that $500,000 item we talked about. Next 3 years, which I just showed you, was 364 plus. Now we come in and we have a $459,000 hit, if you will, because of 10 years worth of IRS-related interest, taxes, including Maryland. Maryland's interest rate, by the way, is 13%. 13%. Federal government's about 4%. Okay, so now, here we are, all in after the end of this year, settling up this IRS matter. We're back over $500,000 again. We're at 579 on the bottom line there. See it? Okay, now we've been putting money aside, that $4 fund that I talked about. Now I'm going to interplay that with this. Because we've been having this $4 increase each year, $4 of the 30, we've been putting money aside to erase that deficit. The idea being that at the end of 5 years, the $500,000 would have been put away in a separate account, and we would eliminate that old $500,000. The board several months ago, in light of the IRS pending cost and expense, passed a motion that extended the $4 component beyond its 5-year original life in order to make up the difference. Okay? And I'll show you how that works out. Okay. So there's our deficit up there, 579,653. The deficit recovery fund, which is the $4 component I've been talking about. That balance at April 30th this past year was 206. May 1st, in your assessment, had some more. So we've put away 307 towards that $500,000. Projected year number 5 of the 5-year funding plan, which would be May 1 next year, assuming the board continues that, I won't be part of the board, but I truly hope they continue it for the 5th year. If they do that, it adds another $168,000 to that deficit recovery fund. And with interest, we're getting pretty close here now to even after the IRS. So the IRS cost is up in the $579. We will put aside at the end of the 5 years the $485,000 basically, even it's only $95,000 short. So the board approved motion several months ago to extend the 5-year period. Looks to me like only 1 year or less will do it. And in fact, I put this little footnote here, you can't read it, I understand that. If the association in the current fiscal year has a surplus again equal to the average of the last 3 years, it'll wipe that out without extending that 5-year period at all. Okay? So 5 years and we're done if we make 121,000 favorable, but if not, we have, it's going to be $11. It's going to be less than what we're paying right now. And that was always intended to go away at the end of 5 years. Not the 26. 26 needs to continue for major building projects. We got $8, $9 million stuff out there. But that $4 component was always intended to go away. It might have to go a little bit further beyond the 5 years because of the IRS. But it's been offset terrifically by the profitable operations and favorable variances to budget over the last 3 years. Thank you, Bob. Okay. Thank you, Bob. I think this is good news. A lot of people don't, but I do. Okay, here is the funding of the proposed yacht club rebuild project. I said I'd talk about that, and now there. We've been putting that $26 aside, as you know, each year, increasing your dues. 26. A lot of people don't know about that. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. So I'm going to say it one more time. We only got 100 people here. We have 8,440 people. So the more we say it, the more you spread the word. We have, in a sense, we have developed a plan 4 years ago to fund what we knew was coming down the pipe. Multi-million-dollar expenditures on our facility. The board, long before I was on it, recognized that need. We came up with a 5-year funding plan, and this is the 5-year funding plan. Okay, so what we've got here is, at the end of year 4, we're in year 4 right now. We've already billed that dues, we've already put that money in the bank account. We've collected $2,195,000, it's a little interest. We also funded 2 special projects. $500,000 swim right club project a couple of years ago, and 300 wood duck. Anybody here in wood duck? You know we did some work there, right? 300 grand worth. Okay, so we took 800,000. So we have available right now $1.4 million. You say, well, how's that going to fund a $4.3 million yacht club? Well, the answer is this thing continues on. We have the 5th year, as I said earlier, is right here, year 5, 2014 fiscal year. Less than a year from now, it starts May 1. Put that final $26 into that, and that's going to then freeze it. We won't increase it anymore. Boards can do what boards do. I mean, hopefully they'll stick to the plan and not increase it and not eliminate it. But in any event, the plan is to increase it and then stop, but have it continue. So over the next 3 years, we'll generate 4.7. The cost of the building is 4.3. We'll then at that point in time have $411,000 available for other projects. And believe me, there are other projects. Rack and stack, and we did. The Octave came in at number 1, but it's not the only major expenditure we have facing us. So this is the plan. It's working. I hope the board sticks with the plan. The whole intent of it was to not have you, the membership, face some big assessment increase in a particular year where we had a major expenditure. It was also to add some predictability. I mean, 5 years ago, we said the plan's $30 increase a year. Other than expenses. I mean, normal expenses have been managed quite well, and you'll see that in a second. But this is the 5-year funding plan, which we know. And some love and some don't. Here's the assessment history, assessment increase history. Very simply, in 2008, those of you who were here at the time got a $150 increase. I'm not arguing that. That's a fact. That's what they had reasons for it. Over the next 5 years, however, cumulatively, we've had 148. So 0 increase in 2009, $38 increase in 2010, $45 in 2011, $35 in 12, and the current year we're in, you all know, you just got your bills and paid them, hopefully. A $30 increase, that's $148 over a 5-year period. Why did my dues go up, people say? Well, of that 148, the 5-year funding plan has represented 116 of it. The $4 we've been talking about, the $26 we've been talking about, ladies and gentlemen, those are necessary expenses. We didn't create the $500,000 deficit. It's the associations. We've got to deal with it, and we are dealing with it. We've got aging buildings, 40 years old, wooden structures. They've got to be dealt with. And this community is going to continue to be as attractive as it has been, and we hope will continue to be. We've got to invest back in it. But the point is simply that over 5 years, your assessment has gone up $148, of which $116 has been for specifically eliminating the prior $500,000 deficit and accumulating funds to handle something like $8-9 million of expenses, capital expenses. Operationally then, $32 in 5 years is what we've had. So people say, oh, we're going to cut expenses, do this, do that. $32 of your assessment over a 5-year period, ladies and gentlemen, has gone to operations. Okay, enough of that. Tom Terry. Thank you.
Actually, I'm not next. The person who's next is Chris Hall from our auditing firm. Chris Hall, be nice.
Be nice.
Jeez, talk into the microphone.
How about that? Does that work? I'll have to walk around with it. We'll go up. Good morning. My name is, I know most of you, or a few of you, my name's Chris Hall. I'm a certified public accountant. I'm a partner in the accounting firm TGM Group, and we're based out of Salisbury, Maryland. Well, yesterday when I found out that Pete was given a treasurer's report and was going to go over all the numbers, I'm like, okay, what do you want me to talk about? So, we do produce a 38-page financial statement, and pretty much every page on there has numbers on it. So I figured we'd go one by one. No, actually what I want to spend a few minutes doing is talking about the one page in there that doesn't have a single number on it. And believe it or not, that's the most important page in the document. Not only for everyone sitting in the office, but the board of directors and management, and especially the board. They're the ones that hire me. They're the one that hires our firm to give an opinion on everyone's out here, your financial statements. So I'm going to spend a few minutes, hopefully not talking about a single number. And the page is the independent auditor's report, and it has 3 paragraphs. It has an introductory paragraph, a scope paragraph, and an opinion paragraph. The introductory paragraph is pretty easy. We have audited the accompanying balance sheets, income statements, and cash flows for the years ended April 30, 2012 and 2011. And these financial statements, that 38-page document, is your management's financial statements, your board of directors' financial statements. They're not ours, they're yours. What we're hired to do is express an opinion on them. So that's what the first paragraph would tell a reader. The second paragraph is the scope of the audit. And the first sentence is, we conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepting auditing standards. And there's thousands of pages of auditing standards, so I thought I'd just mention a few. There's general standards, fieldwork standards, and reporting standards. And what those standards do, they say, hey, your audit firm and those that work on audit have to have adequate training. I'm a CPA. I don't know how many are familiar with the certified public accountants, but we're licensed like everyone else. I have to get a minimum of 120 hours every 3 years, since our firm does not only homeowners, but government audits and tax, etc. I probably get 60, 70 hours per year of training, along with the rest of our staff of about 40 in our firm. We need to maintain independence. I can't have any relationships with the homeowners association, with management. I got to be totally independent, which I am. We have to properly plan and supervise and train our staff. Those are your general standards. Then the fieldwork standards are, we have to understand the client. We have to come in, we have to talk to people, we have to document internal controls. We have to not only document them via narrative, checklist, and talking to people, then we actually have to go test it. We got to test transactions. And we don't test every transaction. We'd be here pretty much all year if we did that. In any audit, there's an element of sampling. And the next sentence of the report talks about that. The standards that I just mentioned require that we plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. And someone might ask, what's reasonable mean? Well, according to the standards, reasonable means high, a high level of assurance. And material means there's a threshold. We don't audit every penny. We'd be here if we looked at every check and every receipt with your yacht club, your pools. We'd be here all year, and your assessments would be a lot higher because you'd have to pay us a lot more money to do that too. So I don't think you want to do that. And the third and final paragraph is the most important. There's 4 types of opinions we can express: a unqualified opinion, a qualified opinion, a disclaimer, or an adverse opinion. And I give you a guess on which one's the highest, and probably everyone that's not an accountant will get it wrong, but unqualified is the highest level of assurance that you can give. You don't want to see a qualification. A qualification would mean we give an opinion except for this that may be wrong. Adverse just sounds bad, and it is. And disclaimer sounds bad, and it is. So the last paragraph is, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. That's an unqualified or clean opinion and the highest level of assurance that we can give on your financial statements.
I think we have talked about a single number. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, staff, as well, for doing a great job. And aren't you the leader of that team? So congratulations. Good work. Thank you. I just wanted to share a few thoughts today, and now I'm going the wrong direction. State of the Association. The financials, you've just heard a lot about. But I wanted to share some thoughts with you just from talking to people in the community about the whole financial picture of where we are. We're clearly on solid ground. You can see that, of where we are. But what I hear from a lot of people is, my dues are my dues. Just what's the total number? I don't need all that other detail. Well, if you just watched the numbers, you saw that the majority of the increase of any of the dues year over year recently has not been for operations. And I equate it to, I just paid my electric bill. What do I have after I paid my electric bill? Not much. I already used the electric. It's gone. I don't have it anymore. If I spend capital dollars, I have something that's real. I can put my arms around it. Well, it's too big. I can touch it at least. That's where the dollars go when we talk about capital. We're talking about real, solid assets is where the money's being spent. So when somebody says, just tell me what the total number is, I can't do that. I have to try to help folks understand that the increases that have been coming over the recent years have been all about capital needs of a 40-plus-year-old community. It's not about operations. And a matter of fact, I'm going to echo the statement of the job that has been done by Bob Thompson and his team, at least over the last 2 years, of how they have managed the operations of this folk financially, if no other way, financially. They've done a great job, and they've got a huge challenge going forward with the amount of money that's in the budget operationally next year. It's going to be a fight to make it. but I trust, Bob, you and your team will do it. The 5-year plan, Pete just went through it in detail. It is critical to the ongoing support of what this community needs, so that we do not find ourselves in a situation where we have no money set aside and we have 40-year-old buildings that are crumbling around our ears. My favorite topic, the IRS. I filed this one under, at some point you finally have to give up. I personally still believe we were right. It's just the way it is. But at some point you have to stop fighting. Put the gloves down, get out of the ring. It wasn't worth going any further, and I'll leave it at that. I'll take your question. Go ahead.
I need some background on this IRS thing, and I have no idea what it is.
No, not now. Later.
I'll be glad to do that after the session if you don't. I'll be glad to do that. I'll be glad to do that. More than happy to. It's going to take more than 2 or 3 minutes to fill you in on what's going on with that. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Is that okay with you? You okay with that?
Well, a brief summary would have been useful, but I'll do it.
Later.
Well, the
Later.
net of it was, years ago, there was the IRS came in and said that the money that we're making off of parking should have been taxed. We said it shouldn't have been. 10 years later, it's finally been resolved to where they won most of the fight. So there's a lot more to it than that. Okay?
That's all I needed.
Oh, that's good. Facilities, assets, what do we need? One of the things that I want to make sure people are aware of is not only just the financial numbers, but one of the things that the board of directors is challenged with, especially with the 2 years that I've been on board, has been, well, you're collecting all this money in the 5-year plan. Where are you going to spend it? What are you going to do with it? And that challenge was put forth to Bob Thompson, and he came forward with his group of folks that he put together called the Facilities Planning Group, and there's 2 binders of this size that lay out the plan, complete assessment of all the assets of the corporation called Ocean Pines. And it puts it into he called it a rack and stack, which says what should we work on first, second, third, fourth, what is the most critical. It's not chiseled in granite, but it was an enormous amount of work and very critical work by that group of folks and the folks who came before. There were a lot of studies and reports that were used in coming up with that solution. But we now have in the hands, and Bob has in his hands, a guidebook, a plan, if you will, that says where should we spend the money, when is it going to come due to our best estimate, and then he can come to the board of directors as these things come and need to be addressed. We are not, I hope that work will allow us to move away from the country club group who's arguing with the beach club group, who's arguing with the yacht club group as to which building needs to be fixed first. That was part of the whole mission of that group and what Bob was trying to put together. And when Bob put that program forward, we as a board endorsed it. Now that's important. There's a lot of work done before, but this was the program that was endorsed by the board that said now we have a semblance of a plan, of an outline, of a roadmap, if you will, for all of our assets as we go forward. So we have a structured approach now in looking at our assets and trying to figure out what the next steps ought to be. The Yacht Club referendum, obviously a critical step in our life this year, coming up, and in all the work that's been done to get us to where we are. I urge you all to get as much information as you can. If you have not had a chance to tour the Yacht Club, Bob is doing tours of that. He's coming out to meeting with groups. You can talk to board members. You can get to the website. There's the engineering report that tells the story of the existing facility. I could go on for a long time. I'm not going to turn this into a Yacht Club meeting. But the reality is there's a lot of information, and that's all we want to put in your hands, is why did we vote 7-0 to take the step we took? Those are the facts of why we did it. That's what's behind it. It's available to you Bob's door is wide open to meet with any group or any folks to talk about that. And I urge you to get the information and make sure that you're fully informed on that particular challenge that we have ahead. Directions and challenge. We are on a strong financial path, as Pete just talked about in some detail. We have improved decision-making support systems, like the rack and stack of what we have going on for major projects. We have a 97% collection rate. Now, I want to understand, folks, that is a very strong foundation for any organization to have a 97% collection rate. That does not mean we ignore the 3%. It just simply means we have a very strong foundation. Our membership live up to their commitments, most of them. There are a few who don't. And there are procedures and policies that are being followed to go after that 3%. But the 97% can give you a comfort level, I believe, of the stability that we've got in the organization going forward. We do have a challenge. The state funding continues to be an issue. The money we used to get to pave roads, we no longer get. We're $1 million behind in state funding now for the roads. That doesn't mean the roads don't have to be fixed. They do. Bob has revamped the plan. We are starting to pave again now after a couple of years hiatus from doing that. The state money is going to be a challenge. It is not made up by the casino money. It's nice that we get the casino money. I'm glad we've got it. The board has decided to direct that money towards paving, but it's not going to take care of everything. So we do have a challenge. Those are challenges coming forward. And we will have a challenge to maintain the trends that we've had of positive years of functioning, of positive operational dollars at the end of the year, and of following through on the financial plans that have been put in place. So far, all board members have, not all board members, but all boards have voted to continue the 5-year plan, and as the numbers just pointed out, why that's critical to us. Hours of service and programs continue to expand. Just today, the new startup farmers market is out there. It's fledgling. It's just getting started. But we have hundreds of hours of service, if not thousands of hours of service to our members now that were not there. This building you're sitting in right now, 3 to 4 years ago, was not open on the weekends and was not open at night. We didn't have it open. It was our community center. It was a brand new building, and it wasn't open. Not only have we opened it, come by here most nights. Try to wedge yourself in as to all the things that are going on that fill up this center right here. This activity center right here. We've expanded hours of service, and I just want you to be aware that not only did we save money at the end of the year and make money at the end of the year, we didn't do it by cutting services. We did it while expanding services. I say we, I'm pointing over this way to this team over here. We sat there and said, way to go, but they did it. So we didn't have that positive by simply closing things down. We did it by managing better and improving and expanding services to everyone. We do have an ever-improving management team, in my opinion. We have new department heads that are getting settled into their departments, and we have existing department heads that are doing a great job. Every organization has challenges in certain people. But all in all, we have a pretty solid management team running our place. We will be challenged as an organization to maintain connection with these fine employees as we go forward, as the economy continues to evolve, whichever direction it goes. We've got to pay attention to keeping the good people we've got, because they are doing a good, solid job. We continue to expand the use of IT services and systems. How many of you are signed up for eBlast? Okay, all of you who don't have your hand up, if you have a computer and connection to the internet, I strongly suggest you go to our website and you sign up for eBlast. And what that is a means for us to communicate with you via messages and emails to you into your computer directly. We can get information to you a lot faster, a lot more effectively, and in many cases cheaper by doing it that way than trying to put up billboards and put out extra newsletters and those kinds of things. So we are trying to make use of IT and in fact enhance the backbone of IT in our organization right now. Our community continues to evolve slowly. As that evolution happens, we need to be open to new ideas. Be willing to move forward, but with caution. That caution has to be based in movements and activities and decisions on a thoughtful process and shared information, not a passion of the moment, not in the midst of a rancor and argument, but of good, solid information shared and well thought out as we go forward in our organization. And I think we can continue to do that. I think we have succeeded in trying to do that, and I hope we stay that course as we go forward. I simply share with you folks that I believe our organization is in very solid shape. Financially, organizationally, are there problems? Of course there are. Are there pieces that are broken? Yes. We're a $13 million a year budget operation. There are always going to be things to address. But I believe we are working very hard to try to be responsive, and I think we have the team, the processes, and the will to continue the positive direction for our community. So thank you very much, and I will turn it over to Bob Thompson.
Good morning. Well, after all that, I almost not want to get up. I like all the positives. Thanks, Tom. All right, I just want to cover a couple of things in the annual meetings when we everyone's trying to kind of give a state of where we are right now. I thought I'd cover some of the operational things. I know some of you are going to say, hey, we've seen some of this before, but a lot of you haven't. I'll go through pretty quickly because I know you're not all here to hear me or these guys actually talk. Well, maybe you, Mr. Moore, but... Here are a couple things I'm going to cover quickly today. I'll do a quick review around the Pines to highlight some things, maybe some things you may or may not have know that's going on, give you some ideas, some personnel changes we had, along with new programs and projects. Quick review, swim and racket. Those that don't know, we did a lot of changes around there, painting around it. We extended the beach area a little bit. We did some sand out there. We painted the parking blocks. And the reason I identify these type of things is because these are all where your dollars go, and these impact each of us differently. Some never go to the swim and racket. But upholding the value of the community means taking care of every asset, every piece of the community. One of the projects we worked on this year. Community center. One of the things that were put in here this year were the doors. Anybody remember last year's meeting and the years prior? We'd have meetings in here anytime things were going on in the gym. You got you heard the overflow of what was happening. This year we put the double doors in. We've also, interestingly enough, when it rains real heavy, we get a couple inches of rain, it drains into the building in the back corner of the building. We've had to dig out and put new drains in to the new building. Again, things not everyone sees, but activities that Public Works and our teams are doing to keep the community in good quality shape. Casino money. Tom already mentioned we are using the casino money. We budgeted for it this year. The board approved to have the casino money that we have put towards our roads program, something that's been put on hold for several years because we just didn't have the state money anymore. We're going to apply the casino money towards the road plan. Now, what's going to happen? It's not all where we were in the roads plan. Was the next element was to redo the parkway. Well, quite frankly, the parkway is not what's in the worst shape. So we had an engineer come out, look at all 70 miles of roads, identify which ones were in the worst shape, had the most cut-ups, had just the most issues with, and we've kind of racked and stacked those, so when you start to see the paving, it's going to be throughout different parts of the community where the roads are in the worst condition. We've repainted the lines on the parkway, which some say that's not a big deal. I will tell you, I had a lot of people call and thank us for that. At night, we all know it's dark in here. Having those lines refreshed every couple of years makes a difference. So. And we also painted everything in the White Horse Park when they were here because all the lines were faded, some of the parking, and quite frankly, this is most heavily used ongoing day to day. So when we had those accomplished. Pillbox, those that may not know about this, if you go in the lobby of the police department, we've installed a box to collect your medications that are no longer good. So take them out of your medicine cabinet, bring them to the police department, drop them in the box. I met with the Maryland State's Attorney a few weeks ago in Ocean City, and we're one of the only communities in the area that actually one of the only in the state that have these new pill boxes. And what it's doing is taking drugs off the street, basically, as they sit in your box or in your at home in one of your cabinets. Someone gets a hold of them, they use them improperly. You throw them in the trash. Someone finds them, believe it or not, they get them out of the trash, they use them. If you put them in the toilet, which over years people said just dump them out, they're getting into our waterways and they're damaging our waterways. Okay? So we have this box. He was actually state's attorney and was asking, so where's it? I said, in front of the police department. He said, well, it's secure, right? I said, well, sir, it's secure. I can't think of a better place than in our police department. It was just interesting. So he kind of paused for a moment. He said, oh, okay, I see what you mean. So, but what was neat about that is, we were recognized as one of the communities. We're constantly trying to get out there more, not just live in the sphere of Ocean Pines, but to be good ambassadors, goodwill, for our waterways. We're not dumping it down the drain anymore. Being recognized, meeting with the governor, meeting with the state's attorney, talk about things we're doing here in our community. So it's real excited about that. We've really gone after grants. Police department has done a very, very good job. We have an officer that actually writes grants now. She's been to the grant writing class where she can write to apply for them, and we're starting to see more and more grants. The other thing we're working on, and Art and I are going back and forth on this, is we're still working with FEMA. Hurricane Irene came and we did some damage. Well, over the years, we've always applied for grant money or monies to be replenished from FEMA, from the federal resources. We've always been denied. Well, Art said, well, that can't be done. Well, we're up at the highest level now. Now we're actually we applied to MEMA, which is the Maryland agency, got denied. Went to petition it, got denied. They elevated to FEMA. It got petitioned, it was denied. Now we're at the senior level. And interestingly enough, if you can break through that senior level, now I'm getting direct calls. Well, tell me a little more about your community. Maybe we don't understand it as much. Because quite frankly, we're the largest year-round community in the county. We represent the largest group of people in the county. And the feeling right now is we may actually end up cracking that into that and be able to get some replacement funds, which would carry us years and years in the future as damage comes. So we're working on those. They're behind the scenes. You don't see it, but I thought the annual meeting was a good time to bring that up. So I appreciate the efforts that Jen does for your department chief, and certainly your efforts, Art, and your team getting those monies for us. Section 3 drainage. Those that live in Section 3, we haven't talked about a lot. We haven't had a heavily rained area the last year, okay? So you're not in my office or coming to the board meetings yelling because it's not draining. But we know it's still an issue. I've been meeting regularly. The head of public works and myself have been meeting with a small county team to figure out what we can do to fix the drainage, to get it out of the community. Where it stops on Beecham Road, we figured out that on Mr. Meltzer's property at River Run, the piping's too small to get the water out. We're real close. We're working with his engineer to see what we can do to increase the piping, which would increase the flow, which would move the water out of our community. So we're working on that, working very close with the county. We did, anybody's been in the admin building, you saw the changes we did this year. Carrollton Lane, which I know was favorable to some, not favorable to others, but I'm bringing it out, ended up being a two-way street. Beach Club, if you have not been over to the Beach Club, we've made a lot of changes over there. The new retractable awning. What happens, and I was out there one afternoon, all of a sudden the awning started to close. I'm like, why is the awning closing it? When the wind reaches a certain level, it automatically closes. Well, what's pretty neat about that is it prevents the damage that we have every year when a gust of wind starts blowing and the awnings get torn. We're spending $6 to $8 grand a year to put the awning up and down with the old stuff. So this is just certain things we're looking at for long-term improvements. We repainted the facility, all the window casings. We did the bathroom work downstairs. I've had one complaint this year, and only one recently, about the bathrooms downstairs. One of the things we did over years past, we would get, because the drains are just about called complete with sand, we'd wait until they became an issue. We'd have to call emergency work order to a company to come in and pump the drains out. Now, every other week, or sometimes 2.5 weeks, a company comes in, they automatically pump the drains out for us. We're proactive with it. What that's doing, it's cheaper than emergency work order. And oh, by the way, the drains aren't clogged.
Just some things we're doing differently. And the Public Works parking lot was repaved this year. You guys will never see that, but these are little things that we're doing continuously to keep the community in good shape. We've had some personnel changes, some big ones. David McLaughlin, our new yacht club manager. One of the things I've been saying at all the meetings, and I see faces where I've seen people, many of you at our meetings. One thing I'm real excited about, by the end of June, our numbers last year, okay, were negative $18,000. By the end of June this year, we're $7,000 to the plus, or in the black. He was here 2 months at that point. I'm real excited. I'm waiting for July numbers to see where we are with that. So he's making tough decisions, but I believe it's going to be what our community needs to get us turned around. We've also, those who know Ms. Phillips passed away this year. That was a really tough thing for the community. She had been here over 30 years. She was kind of a cornerstone, so we're going to miss her. On the flip side, we're excited to have Michelle join us. Michelle's local. She's got a lot of experience, and she's really filling that role well, so welcome, Michelle. Some promotions. Eddie Wells was promoted this year to head Public Works. He's doing a fantastic job. He was Carrie's right-hand person. Sonia took over here with our rec department, and I'm going to show you some of the programs, some of the additional things we've been having, which has been fantastic. And Lydia Hutner took over managing the beach club differently this year. She actually oversees the beach club, the parking, and the pools all at the same time. Years past, we had 3 different department heads running the facility over there, so if you have a problem with the bathroom, you couldn't talk to anybody. They'd come back over here to talk to somebody. Or if you had something at the pool, you had to come here. If you had talked, it was just odd. Linda, if you talk to her, she can fix anything down there. She's done a great job for us. Okay, some fun stuff. Cal Ripken baseball. Okay, those that don't know, and I don't see anybody in the room that participated because it was for 7- and 8-year-olds, but you may have brought your grandchildren or children. Ocean City's always had it. Okay, over the last few years, it's been declining in the participants. We said we'd like to take a shot at it, so when they didn't renew the contract, we jumped on it. Well, not only did we renew it, the challenge was we had to turn kids away. Okay, and it was a huge success. They came down. And it's just wildly successful. We used the Shout Parks, and it was just a great thing for the community. Sonia and her team did a great job, and it was real neat to see the kids. And they actually had the professionals come down and train them. It's a 3-day program, but it was really, really well received. So we're excited about that. Farmers Market, I know Tom mentioned it earlier, but we've had a lot of success with the Farmers Market this year. It keeps growing each and every week. A lot of the residents were surprised when we first started. I did hear some, oh no, we shouldn't be doing that in the community. But now the overwhelming participation has been very, very good. So we enjoy that. We appreciate everybody using it. And again, these things we're trying to do to enhance our living here in the community. Freedom 5 Pay Run, first time we had done one of these. It was done on July 4th. It was really, really neat. We had over 300 people participate. It was a really, really great event. A portion of the money raised went to the Home of the Brave, which was just added to the day's event. The only downside I have is these 2 folks came and won the race, and I was up shaking their hand. They're both from Oregon, so I'm thinking the air quality's different. And they're a husband and wife team, so they're probably chasing each other down the road all the time. But they said they'd be back, so we've got to get someone here training to beat them. But it was great. We had families running. Just a mix of people that day. OC Tri is who we partner with to do that, and they bring in the big overhang here and the timer. And it's just what a neat event, and it was really well done. Where everybody was excited to think we'll make. And again, everything we tried doesn't always work. What didn't work so well with that particular thing, no disrespect, more guys won the categories. Guys were faster running. I had a couple of folks come up, females later, and go, "Why aren't you having a female category?" We didn't think about it. This year, when we do it, we'll separate the 2. Little things like that we learned, but it was fun. We had, again, 300 people running, about 400 people there that day. Great event for the community, and it was right out front. Dog park. Oh my goodness, this one has been the hardest project I've had all year. No lie. Now, am I going to say the most work? The yacht club's been the most work, but wow, folks, the dog park's coming. I promise you. Okay. We had to put locks back on the door. We have a couple back on the gates recently because we have a couple little things we need to tighten up for safety concerns. The intent's to have that open by next Wednesday. Thursday, next Wednesday. Okay, so we're really excited about that. Anybody hasn't been out there, go take a look at it. Appreciate the donations. Certainly appreciate all the hard work and the folks that raised 50% of the funds so we could get that project up and running. Okay, this is one we haven't talked about a whole lot, but we want to start sharing. We talked about, as you all know, we partnered with Waste Management, and I know there's been some positives and negatives. Anytime you try something new, you're going to have that. Something that's pretty cool will come out of it. We started in last month with the 50-state challenge. That's where we're competing against communities across the country. There's one in each state. Ocean Pines is the Maryland state rep, okay? And what it is, it's based on the amount of recycling. The amount that we send to the recycling, they weigh each week, okay? As they pick that up, that accumulates. Whichever community has the most wins the 100,000 S.C. Johnson Challenge. We are number 8 in the country right now. That is fantastic. We're all, I mean, So that says a whole lot about the community. Now, I know the recycling has been bumpy, and Waste Management coming out with the trucks haven't been the right delivery schedule, or they've changed. Folks, anytime you try something new, it doesn't work perfectly right out of the gate. We just keep trying till we get it better. But this is a great testament of how hard our community is working. And we've moved close to 500 tons of waste that would be in our landfill locally out to recycle. Phenomenal numbers. So thank you all for that. We're going to start to put some more out there so everybody's aware of it. That's something you all can be proud of. All right, tennis. We've had projects that have gone on, some things I just want to point out, some things that have worked for us. This is the before and after a 2-hour rainfall down at the tennis center. What we did this year is we went very, very aggressive in improving drainage down at that facility. 10:30, right after a heavy rain, everything's flooded here. 2 hours later, the water's not. The reason I share these with you is not everything works perfectly when we try, but what we're trying to do is offer longer-term solutions to the challenges we have in the community. We're really, really excited. This seems to be working very well for us. Golf. This is one where we're getting, a lot of people, the greens, we've spent a lot of money and the greens have browned a little. The fringe on front of the golf course is stressing it out. That's part of, anytime you're tackling a big project like this, you're going to have ups and downs. Here's some positives, just so everybody understands. We've had 16 members join the lifetime membership program. Really excited about that. They're really stepping up and we appreciate their commitment. We had, interestingly enough, despite the fact we had challenges with our golf course, we had almost 2,000 more rounds of golf last year. So we don't highlight that a lot. We don't talk about that. Now, doesn't mean we're turned around yet. It just means we're doing things. There's a lot of things happening more positive than what you just hear about, okay, this isn't working right, that's not working right. Anytime you make major changes, it takes some time. Yacht Club, this will be the last thing I'll hit you with. Most have seen the pictures. This is what's going out in your referendum material. I'm going to take the opportunity because I've been talking with a lot of folks. I bet we're upwards about, we tried to calculate about 600 people we've been in front of between Saturday, the meeting a few weeks ago, Saturday's meeting, and all the smaller groups we've been meeting with. We appreciate you letting us come out and talk to you about it. You're going to have a ballot that comes out. It's already been mailed out, so you'll be getting it next week in the mail. It's very, very important. This is an important step for the community. Vote. Whether you're for it or against it, I'm okay, but vote. I'd love to see 8,000 ballots come back in. It means that we've informed you. It means you've made a decision what's good for you. And I don't want to tell you what's good for you. It's up to you. You're the members. You own this place, so you make that decision. I just ask you to read the materials. Make an informed decision. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, we have no old business. New business. We will now, Diane, if you want to start coming up. Actually, Diane, 5 minutes total and 30 seconds left, so you will know this. You had a hand up over here.
No, I just wanted to make sure we didn't skip over public comment.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No. That's next. So the microphone is back there, and we will start into public comment. And since you asked for it, we'll let you go first. After that, you can elbow and shove your way on down.
My name is Kathy Geary. I live at 2 Warbler Court, and I have been a homeowner for close to 20 years, 14 years full-time. I have comments to make about the maintenance, and I think that there is no question that we have not maintained our amenities and the fact that replacement is needed. My concern is, has a maintenance program been put into place for the amenities that we are replacing? And I guess it's because I have attended functions, mostly in the gym, and I do not believe that the gym is being maintained. This is a new facility that we spent a lot of money on. And I don't really want to go into detail. I have addressed it when I saw it, but I was just really surprised that this is happening, and I guess my concern is if we're not going to maintain things going forward, history tends to repeat itself, and we are known as a complaint-driven community. And I don't, no, but it's true, and I just, that is my concern.
Okay. Let me respond to the part of it that I can as a board member. The board of directors has authorized the creation of a chief engineer, if no other title, to oversee the facilities. We have put it in the budget going forward, and I know Bob is looking to fill that spot. Bob, you want to add anything? I mean, at this point, we are putting someone in place who will be in charge of exactly what you just talked about, putting together the plans of maintenance for all the facilities and monitoring and make sure the work gets done. So we have authorized that position to be created, and should be soon. That person should be on site.
I'm referring to general cleaning.
I understand that. We're talking about major repairs as well as ongoing plans for maintaining the whole facility. We saw the same issue you did, and Bob did as well, by the way, because he asked for the person so we could hire him. Next.
My name is Norm Katz. I have a question in regard to the IRS liability, the estimate given us. I know that the IRS has waived penalties. That was on the portion of the lawsuit, I guess, or what we challenged. But I'm just wondering, when we calculated our estimated liability, whether you assume that the penalties will be waived as well on the amount going forward. The same thing holds true of the state of Maryland. In fact, I don't think they've even been involved, or even know anything until we actually amend our taxes. At least that's how I understand it. You've talked about how high the interest rates are. Penalties could be a lot more. So have you also assumed that we will not have any penalties with the state of Maryland? Okay. Thank you.
Pete, you want to take this?
But why not?
Give me a chance to get something directed.
The answer is with respect to the penalties. No, the penalties are not included in the estimate. It's one of the items that we talked very carefully with our attorneys about. The IRS, as you suggested, did in fact initially impose penalties, but upon further discussions, if you will, they decided that we were not to be charged penalties. And that was part of the court ruling as well, upholding that in the tax court. So no penalties are in there. Maryland, yes, we, for 2003, by the way, 2003 and 4 were the only years audited. And we need to pay now, we've authorized our auditors to file as soon as possible the Maryland tax returns for 2003 and 4. And we've accrued interest in that, but not penalties. Okay? Our attorneys, on the advice of attorneys, we don't believe we'll have to pay penalties.
In regard to the penalties on the IRS, they waived the portion that we challenged. What about the portions going forward?
There's nothing going forward because going forward, we've taken action to open it up to the public. We don't expect to pay going forward for those other, for future years.
Doesn't the estimates that you have made now beyond the 2003, 2004, you owe some additional money as well?
We have included in the estimated liability amount for taxes, both federal and state, interest, both federal and state, and no penalties. Thank you.
Next. Yes, ma'am.
Julie Kazori, I live on Bearberry Road. And just one question regarding recycling. I don't know if we're just trashy people, meaning our family, but I could do with recycling being picked up once a week. And I could do with garbage being picked up once a week. And I don't know if that's a possibility. Sometimes I end up just throwing it in the garbage because I don't have any more room in my recycling.
I think we have your answer.
No, that's a great question, and when Waste Management, right, when we talked with them about recycling, they said, why don't we do one and one pickup? And the challenge we had, as you all know, change is difficult. So we said, no, keep my 2 and 1, because the first thing people started calling, and Michelle tell you, we had a lot of calls. Why are you getting rid of my trash? We can't do that. This has been a learning experience for us. We have the ability to amend the contract to go 1 and 1. What I want to be careful with, though, is the overall community feels that way. I think it's working, and I'd like to see us move down that path. I'm going to try to let it go a little bit longer, and then we'll make that decision. Okay? And no, you're not trashy people. I've had a lot of people call it. I don't know that. So
All right, and the other question I had, and I may have missed it because I was a few minutes late, do we have a projected increase for assessments once we have
For the yacht club?
for the yacht club?
The 5-year plan that's in the flow is a $30 increase for next year, but that is in the plan regardless of whether the yacht club gets built or not. So the yacht club itself is not going to increase the dues except for some level of depreciation.
Yeah, the Q&As that you'll get when you receive the package addresses that specific question outside of the $26, okay? There will be some additional depreciation. As I said earlier, when you bring a new building online, we'll depreciate it, and that'll be a higher level of depreciation. We calculate that difference as $6 a year. $6 a year in depreciation, but we expect that will be offset by improved efficiency in the utilities and other operating costs. My personal guess is that $6 in depreciation will be more than offset by cost savings.
Next.
My name is Nepal Turner, retired 3 Warren Court. I have one question. I never got an answer. Do you get any monetary consideration when the aluminum cans, the plastic materials, et cetera, et cetera? Is there any monetary consideration there
Back to
for Ocean Pine?
No, we do not.
You don't?
No, we actually got the service at a lower cost than our previous provider, and they provide the service to us for the fees that we pay.
You don't pay them? You don't pay them for the service?
Well,
Or they're being
you
paid
do.
by the aluminum?
The members do.
You do.
And you're telling me that the aluminum cans and the plastics or et cetera, there's no reciprocal monies involved?
No, there is not.
Well, then you ought to look into it, because everybody else gets paid. Unless nobody else knows about it.
Okay, thank you. Good question.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My name is Barbara Boone, and I live in the Meadows. How much money do we get from the casino?
Laurie?
We have approximately 300,000 we've received through the end of April.
No, I'm sorry. Approximately 300,000 have accumulated through the end of April. Chris, you shake your head, right? And it comes out to, what, averages 18 a month? About 18, the average, again, I'm doing approximates, about 18,000 a month. Okay, and we've been putting that into a separate savings account, and that's what's accumulated up to nearly 300,000.
Okay. You go. Don't let anybody push you out of the way.
Hi, my name's Bill Sheridan.
One question, Mr. Sheridan.
Actually don't have any questions. It's very good today. I think it was a great presentation. I think you've done a lot of work.
Use the mic.
Use the mic. You have to get the same speech I'm going to.
Is that okay?
Perfect.
Break into song.
Okay, ready? No, I'd just like to say, I think that a lot of these, Tom's done a good job here, no question. I think people, administrative people, and stuff. I just have a question, again, it's the HO question. Do we have any major plans to turn around golf? And as an example, I have some 36 courses around the ocean, Pine, and the club. Any specific issue that this is happening? I'll be my pacemaker. No, I want to.
I'll try to address part of that. Clearly, the golf course, we've addressed that with some investment. We've addressed it with hiring a management company. You saw the numbers of the rounds of golf that are going up. We lost a lot of golf rounds last year because of the weather and because of the repairs we had to do. We've been able to manage that repair work so that its influence is limited as best we can. I believe the golf course is going to turn itself around. It was on the direction of doing that. It's a matter of keeping it healthy and safe. I'm not saying it's perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But we are getting members who are buying lifetime memberships, and the number of rounds are going up. Not everything's perfect over there. I'm not claiming it is, but that at a high level, that's the direction for that. As far as the yacht club is going, we've hired David, who came out of the Ritz-Carlton background in country club management. He's had more expanded experience and responsibility in every place he's been. He's from New York. He's from the Ritz-Carlton background. We looked at David to turn that around when he's been here for a while. He's already starting to turn the financials around a bit. We still need to focus in on the standardization of food and quality. There's no question we have to do that. And the service itself, I hear from some folks that it's gotten better, and I've heard some folks that it's just as bad as it was before. Again, we've got to give David some time and the folks over there some time to be educated and trained by somebody who comes out of a background of actually managing these kinds of things on a day-to-day basis with more and more responsibility. So there's a lot being put on David, but his background, it's the reason he was chosen. Bob, you want to add anything to that? Okay. Next.
Hello, my name is Charles Schmidt. I'm at 17 Process Lane. You mentioned there were some other projects in your long-term evaluation where you racked and stacked. Could you give us an idea of what the other projects
Sure.
after the yacht club are?
Sure. Basically, what happened was in these wonderful binders that I picked up here. What happened was the group looked at every single asset we've got, meaning country club building, everything to outbuildings, to beach club, to the country club, even to when does this building become at a point where it needs to be replaced. So the whole idea behind the facility plan was to actually look at every single building and make an educated estimate as to when it will need attention and put together and utilize the financial income that we're putting aside to take care of those buildings. Now, do we know exactly what it's going to cost to repair or fix or replace the beach club? No, we don't. But there are educated estimates. There has been a lot of work done in the past. All of our major facilities have had numerous views, numerous studies done. This was one of the first efforts, if not the only one that I know of, that has put all of those resources together in one place. fact, one of the things that I want to make sure is whoever is elected to the board gets copies of these, the new folks that are going to be coming on board soon, so that they have access to this. So that's what's in these binders, is that complete study of how they racked and stacked things. But as I said, it's not in granite. One of the facilities that got moved up was the yacht club, because when the engineering study was done, it was found to be in such bad condition. Does that answer your question?
I was actually just curious as to what the next ones were. Saying that you've done a great job.
Okay. Bob, this is your proposal. I'll let you answer that.
Without having it open in front of me, a couple of things. We're looking at the roads and bridges right now. Roads we're already addressing. Bridges is something we're trying to get our arms around. There's some confusion on exactly where the county has us setting with the bridges. We're getting some additional information. Yes, sir? And Section 3 drainage, but we're already working on that one as well. So they're kind of the highlights right now. If you're looking at facilities, what we'll do is we're going to take us, let's assume the yacht club passes, right?
Yes.
Yes, very good. See, I like that. But then we're going to look at, if you're looking at major facilities, we're going to take a strong look at the country club again, and take a look at the beach club and figure out which one of those fit in, because they would be the next ones that make the most sense. Does that help answer a little better? Okay, you're welcome.
Next. I did want to take one moment to, I did not recognize and did not see him because he was hiding behind folks. We also have Ray Unger from our board of directors here today too. Ray, sorry I didn't see you back there earlier. I apologize for that. Okay, we are now at the moment many of us have waited to hear. And I will call forward now our Elections Committee Chair, Judy Butler, for the announcement of the election results. And when that is over, we are adjourned.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So I get to carry this big secret for 24 hours before I tell you. So, as the numbers go, the highest number of votes went to Sharon O'Hara. She received 1,969 votes. The second highest vote went to Martin Clark. And he received 1,789 votes. Now, the total information and all the details will be in the report to the board, but they are your two new board members for the year 2012-2013. So we should wish them a congratulations. And I want to remind everyone that the ballot for the referendum went out yesterday. It is in the mail. And we will count those votes on September 7th. Deadline, September 6th. Thank you very much.
Opinions are so nice, aren't they?
I'm an attorney.
How many?
Fine with me.
Let's